Welcome to the broadcast tonight. We begin with a conversation with David Rockefeller on the occasion of the publication of his memoirs.
I felt that I had had an unusually interesting life. I'd had chances to meet a broad variety of people all over the world. And I felt, if for no other reason, for my children and descendants, that it might be interesting for them to hear about it. Yeah. And although it was a chore, it took about 10 years to write, I'm glad I did it.
From our studios in New York City, this is Charlie Rose.
David Rockefeller is here. Born in 1915, he is the grandson of the legendary John D. Rockefeller. In 1946, he began his 35-year career at the Chase Manhattan Bank. As chairman and CEO, he helped establish that bank as one of the world's most powerful financial institutions. He has known every United States president since Eisenhower, has had dealings with world leaders ranging from Khrushchev to Deng Xiaoping. His new autobiography, titled simply Memoirs, tells a story of a remarkable life and a remarkable family. I am pleased to have him back at this table. Welcome back.
Thank you very much, Charlie.
Yeah,
it's always nice to be with you. And I thought he was a very good governor.
You were closest to him among the brothers, or closer to?
Probably to Nelson in many ways. I think even as a young boy, it was obvious that he was the most dynamic, the most gregarious, got on best with people. And I admired that. And so, in a sense, he was sort of a hero when I was a young boy. And I continued till he died to be a great admirer.
The two of you, when you were a leader at Chase Manhattan and he was governor, were responsible for, really, the World Trade Center.
We worked together on that.
Yeah. What do you think should be done now? What would David Rockefeller like to see happen in the wake of 9/11?
I think that one shouldn't rush to do something quickly and without recognizing what the needs of downtown are today. When we built it 30 years ago, the two towers, we built them because we felt, after a lot of careful study by the Downtown Lower Manhattan Association that I chaired and started, we were convinced there was a need to focus more on trade, which had always been the heart of New York's business, and that there was no center for that trade, and therefore the World Trade Center, which was built by the Port of New York Authority, sponsored by both my brother Nelson, who was then governor of New York, and the governor of New Jersey, and the mayor of New York, Bob Wagner. I think it was the right thing to do at that time. 30 years later, the problems of downtown are probably different. They are different. And therefore, I would hope, and think it likely he will, that John Whitehead, who is the person who was asked to take charge of it, and a very able man and a great friend of mine, I'm sure that he will study the situation carefully before he moves, because I think certainly you wouldn't want to just build two more 100-story towers. And my own guess is that although trade should be an element in what's rebuilt, there's a need for more housing downtown. Sure. I think it would be better if downtown were more of a 24-hour community than it is today, and therefore more housing would be good, and probably more commercial activity. So it seems to me that both the space and the space around it should be held until a careful study has been made as to what would be best for Lower Manhattan today, 30 years after the trade towers were built. Do you have
strong feelings about what the memorial ought to be, and whether it ought to be on the
I certainly think there should be a carefully thought through memorial. I think the people who lived there are entitled to such a memorial, but in many respects I would think most of them would not want that memorial to overpower the productive things that could be done there. and that therefore a distinguished, handsome memorial that would occupy an appropriate amount of space, but certainly not anything like all the space, would be the best thing. And the best memorial for those people who lost their lives would be to have New York in the lower Manhattan rebuilt in a way that would make it once again a very flourishing community.